Welcome to Stars Launch Pod, where we chat with innovators who are overcoming challenges, pushing boundaries, and collaborating to make space more accessible and sustainable for humanity, one launch at a time.
It's one small step for man.
Here's your host, Susan Wise.
Hi, and welcome to Stars Launch Pod, Space Technology and Research Sciences, brought to you by starsciences.org, where we connect, collaborate, and accelerate. I'm your host, Susan Wise, and joining us today is Alyssa Carson, astrobiologist and aspiring astronaut. It's such an honor to have you here. Hi, Alyssa.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'd like to hear more about you. I mean, aspiring astronaut, that's great. And also what you're currently working on to further the space industry.
Yeah, ever since I was a little girl, I've always had an interest in space and wanting to work in the space industry one day. Obviously, that interest always stemmed from, being able to see astronauts and get to meet them and talk to them. And as I slowly kind of figured out what I was most interested in, I slowly ended up in a field in astrobiology, which is so exciting and also such a cool and niche field of the space and science industry. So currently, I am in my third year of my PhD working on space and planetary science. And all of my research is astrobiology kind of centered. So it's been really exciting to kind of see more of the research side of things and get more involved in scientific research. I think it's definitely an avenue that I would love to pursue, especially career-wise, and honestly just being able to add little pieces to the puzzle of these big questions that we have, especially about space. For right now, what I'm working on is potential signs of past life on Mars. So obviously there's been big fascination with life on Mars. Has been thrown around plenty of times, and there's all sorts of pieces to that puzzle that are slowly being solved. So I do a little bit of work with testing organisms to even see if they could survive in Martian climates and environments, or with Martian soils, or just different conditions that kind of test those limits of what we currently know of Earth. We have so many questions, and there's so much to figure out, especially once we either get more data from Mars, from the rovers, or maybe even people there one day, but it's slowly figuring out those pieces as we go along. So that's been kind of the biggest excitement so far, has just been adding to that puzzle.
That is exciting. And of course, we've got our sights set on the moon again, and then hopefully getting that prepared to actually go to Mars and looking for signs of life, and hopefully having us sending life to Mars would be the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah, I definitely think those are the next steps in the space industry. There's been so much progress, I think, in working towards deeper space travel, a little outside of Earth orbit, and now going back to the moon, and plans of a mission to Mars kind of in the long run. I think it's just exciting to see. And also for the next generation of kids, I think it's going to be really inspiring and really empowering for kids to actually see that moment. I think that students have heard about going to the moon for so long and heard about the age of, going to the moon, and all the general public having so much excitement about it. And so I think kind of having that revived in a way will be very exciting to have, and for the next generation especially.
I love hearing your story. Alyssa, what has been one of your biggest aha moments?
I think that I've just been so inspired by all of the people that I've met, and then all the opportunities that have come with that. I mean, I've gotten to do so many cool things that I never even thought were possible. I mean, being involved in research, especially from an early age, was really cool. Working with IIAS and working with them on citizen science research when I was younger, I think was super cool, and definitely a bunch of my aha moments, just because being able to work with real spacesuits, being able to do microgravity flights, and being involved in those expeditions were so exciting, and also so reassuring, because they were for a scientific objective. It wasn't just to go and do it for fun. There was a greater objective, and being able to learn about the science going into all the components behind it, I think really built towards a lot of my scientific interests in wanting to do research. So I think that has been really exciting. And then aside from that, I would just say, speaking with kids, anytime that I've had the opportunity to be a voice to another student who was really interested in space, or them coming up to me afterward and, saying oh, well, I want to be an astronaut now, or I want to do this in the space industry now. I think any of those little moments have been such aha moments, because I think it really shows the impact of what teaching kids about the space industry can do, because so many of them, they don't necessarily think about the careers beyond like maybe astronaut or scientist or engineer. And so being able to share with them the amount of opportunity that there is and that it's an option for them, I think really shows them that there's so much out there rather than just maybe the typical jobs that they hear on a normal school day.
It's exciting, getting kids excited about it. And I know that along your journey, it doesn't come without challenges, and those are always opportunities to grow. I always say that. So, what has been one of your biggest challenges during this time, and how did you overcome it?
I think for someone who has such a big dream, especially at an early age, and has goals of achieving that, there's always the challenge of trying to set expectations and trying to almost build smaller goals. Obviously, being wanting to work in the space industry, starting from a super young toddler, that's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take so much time and so much hard work to get there. And so I think it was just really setting realistic expectations along the way, building like small goals that feel rewarding and like you're building towards that higher goal, but also knowing that, it still takes a lot of time and work to get there. For me, also balancing like school between different opportunities that maybe I was interested in and just kind of prioritizing what was important, I think was something that really was important to learn and to get a bit better on that balance and figuring out, okay, what is cool enough to step away from, and then going to college and during my undergrad too, a lot of that was figuring out that new balance because that was a whole shift between high school to college is a very different experience. And I mean, even now, undergrad to a PhD program is a whole new ballgame and it is a completely different experience. So I think at each stage, I've really just been trying to one, make sure that I'm like constantly working towards something that I'm interested in and always building towards something that I really want to be doing. And then also at the same time, keeping that balance. So I think finding and getting that balance has always been a little challenging and always fine tweaking. There's been plenty of experiences that I've done that have definitely been huge challenges. I think that one of the ones that was definitely the most challenging when I did water survival training, and that was um uh, really physically demanding, which is why I always say it was one of the most challenging, just because we were there to test these spacesuits and test them in emergency situations. So for example, if you were getting out of the capsule and you need to go in the water, could you swim in them? Could you blow up a life raft in them? And could you do all these things while we're in the spacesuit? So they were pretty heavy and also just physically demanding and trying to do that because theoretically you would have a team, but we also had to make sure you would be able to do them individually. And so being able to just solely rely on myself, a lot of those have been challenging. So I think it's just been able to put myself not only academically, but also physically in all these environments that really push myself. But I think those are definitely the environments that I've learned the most about myself. So.
Absolutely. The big challenges give you a chance to learn. And, we're seeing you take on these challenges and overcome them. And I'm sure that you were into this at a very young age. And I'm just wondering about your support. You have a lot of support from family and friends for this?
I think that when I first had an interest in space, my family was super supportive. They obviously had no idea that it would actually be something that I'm interested in and like wanting to pursue like long term. They were like, "Oh, cute. She likes space for right now. Next week she'll like princesses." You just kind of like
Right.
all the time. And I did definitely have that. I definitely switched around a bunch, but for some reason I always had an interest in space. And so even as I switched around, I was like, oh, well, I can go do this space thing. And then later on, I can become a Disney princess. So it was always just kind of changing my mind. But the space aspect of it always stood around. And so my dad was super supportive in helping me find like books and videos and any sort of information that he knew about space, which was very limited because no one in my family has any sort of science or space or engineering or anything similar at all. So he definitely did his best. And I think that he was always helpful in trying to look for some more opportunities that would teach me more. When I was younger and I came home with a brochure for space camp, he was right there like, okay, let me look into it. Let me see what it is.
Where did that little spark come from that inspired you, that said to you, this is what I want to do?
And my dad really remembers me coming and asking a bunch of questions about space, like, is space real? Or all these random things. Did we go to the moon? What's going on? So he remembers that pretty vividly. And really the best guess that we've ever come up with as to where I would have even learned the word space or anything like that is from the TV show The Backyardigans. It was like airing on Nickelodeon a bunch when I was younger. And basically these friends would go on these imaginary adventures in their backyard. And there was a Mission to Mars episode where they like flew a space shuttle to Mars and they did like an experiment there. And I had the poster for that episode in my bedroom for so long. And so we started thinking like maybe that's where I learned some of these words from, because once I started asking questions, the more I
Uh-huh.
learned about space, the more I wanted to learn. And so it just kind of, that interest just started to snowball.
Well, your enthusiasm is infectious. I mean, I can feel how excited you are about it. Before we wrap up, do you have any piece of advice that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's always important to remember to always follow your dreams and especially not let anyone take your dreams away from you. I think it's so important, especially for the next generation of kids, to know that it doesn't matter what anyone else says about what you're interested in. If you know it's something that you want to do, then you can definitely achieve it. Obviously, most of the time it takes a lot of hard work and sometimes we change our minds or switch around. And, there's so much that can happen, but I think it's important that you kind of stick to your gut and you know yourself better than anyone else. So go after those big dreams, because I know that me as a kid saying I want to become an astronaut and maybe go to Mars one day, I mean, it was craziest of crazy you could get, yet I'm definitely working very hard and achieving a lot of my goals. So I think that it's always possible.
We're watching your story, and I feel like you are going to achieve your goals. Do you have a past or present passion project that you'd like to mention?
I think that my passion projects really have always stemmed from communication and teaching people about space,
Mhm.
both young and old. I think that especially for young kids, I love teaching them about the opportunities that they can come across, but even adults too. I think that space is really a topic that everyone kind of knows about. They maybe have a little interest or curiosity in it, but they may not know to the extent of what the space industry brings to us or the amount of opportunity that there is within the space industry, or even just some of the cool stuff. I mean, getting samples from an asteroid and bringing that back to Earth. Like, that's just cool stuff that happens that I feel like most of the time we're not always familiar with. So I feel like my big passion of mine has always just been really trying to share some of the cool stuff that happens with the general public, because there's so much to be proud of that we're able to achieve. And sometimes we forget as humans that there's so much cool stuff happening, and we can really be proud that we're even able to accomplish some of those things.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Alyssa Carson, astrobiologist and aspiring astronaut. Thank you again for joining us on Stars Launch Pod today.
Thanks.
Be sure to join us where we connect, collaborate, and accelerate. And we'd like to invite you to join starsciences.org and receive a free 1-year membership. Just enter the promo code FRIENDS321, FRIENDS321. And if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review and subscribe. And then, of course, until next time, keep looking up.
Don't miss an episode. Subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. Watch us on YouTube and follow us on social media. Stars Launch Pod, propelling us forward, one launch at a time.